Okay, on to the next Skip the Line reaction, man. And this one is Nothing But Thieves. Can you afford to be an individual? That's an interesting question, actually. This is a Skip the Line reaction from Aaron Moen, like Moen Shandon Moen. Hope I'm pronouncing that properly. If I'm butchering that, I apologize. Thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate that. I think this is your first Skip the Line request, which I do appreciate. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. Nothing But Thieves. We have reacted to them a few times on this channel, a few different songs. We haven't heard this one in particular, but let's see what we got over here.
Sorry that disappoint ya. What will you do when the verses come through?
That's mad. That first line that he said over there is, I couldn't be anything that I didn't want to be. Right? So it almost feels like there's social pressure at play. There's sort of systematic pressure at play. It's like, yes, we all want to be individuals, but are we really being individuals? Are our thoughts and ideas not shaped by others, right? Because, you know, we're very structured in a particular sort of system and a particular sort of rules and laws and things like that. And am I just who I am thanks to the societal pillars that have already existed? Or am I an individual, a unique individual to an extent that's different, essentially? Very interesting question.
And now we're breeding a feeling of animosity. Our thoughts of travel go viral and now it's deafening. Oh, how we're loving the comfort of pack mentality. The internet is teaching 80-10.
That's interesting. Like, you travel far and wide, and it's fascinating to find people, you know, their comfort in staying in a particular sort of mentality. You see a lot of that today, right? And it's actually more so today, because before there was the person and then there was the person's views, right? You could actually sit around a table and you could sit around with mates and disagree on political things. You could be like, well, I don't agree on this, I don't agree with that, but okay, well, whatever, we'll agree to disagree. But you actually still liked the person, right? You still felt that, well, that person, he's actually a really nice guy. He's got a really nice character. I like him. I don't agree with these points. I think he's a bit wonky on these points, but whatever. He's still a great person. Those two things were very split from each other. Now they're not. Now all of a sudden, like, who you are is based on your political ideology. If your political ideology does not tie in with my political ideology, we can't engage, man. You're a terrible person. And it's crazy to see that, because you get people just absolutely assuming who you are because you have a particular. I get that all the time, man. I get it thrown at me all of the time that something's wrong with me, that I'm lost, and that my political leanings are this, that they're conservative. I'm anything but conservative. Actually, I find myself to be quite moderate. I'm actually a centrist, right? At one point, I was a left-leaning. I was always center, but more left-leaning. And I wasn't the one who moved the Overton window. I'm now with the exact same views that I had, a couple of years ago. I'm now landing on the right side of the argument for some odd reason. I'm not even telling you that I'm there. You're telling me that I'm there for some odd reason. You're saying, no, you're a conservative. You're a right-winger. Really? Is that where you place me now? Right? That's where you place my views, which is crazy, because I'm not the one telling you that I am. You're the one telling me that I am, which is quite insane. And that's what's crazy when you actually think about it today, is that you can't actually just be who you are today, because you need to be placed in a box, right? You need to be molded in a certain way so that people can engage with you, right? That without that, they sort of like can't make sense of you without actually understanding your political your political leaning and why, or where you stand. So basically, you'll have a political conversation, which is always a conversation you're going to have because, culture's downstream of politics and politics is upstream of culture. And eventually you're going to talk about those things. You're going to talk about religion, which will eventually filter into politics. You're going to talk about race, which filters into politics. You're going to talk about social issues with filters into politics. But before anybody can actually have that conversation with you, in today's world, they need to place you in a box first, right? So they need to be like, okay, because you have this particular view, okay, I'm going to place you in the red box, right? It's like, I never asked to be placed in a box. Why are you putting me there? I'm just giving you a particular view. A lot of these views were actually very liberal views a couple of years ago, and now they're not. Now all that's been changed. The recipe's been changed. They told you that it's all different, right? They told you that now this means that. They've redefined it all. And now you take that playbook and you just keep throwing it at people. Like you just keep throwing it at people and saying, oh, no, you're this, no, you're that. Okay, well, no, maybe just hear me out at the end of the day. But we live in a society now that, most people don't want to hear you out. The ones that actually do hear you out and at least engage with you and even attack you on it, but you can have that discourse, you can have that debate, even if they disagree with you. I've got immense respect for them. If you don't agree with me, I've got immense respect for you. I'm not going to judge you on your character and call you this and call you that. I've got immense respect for whatever you believe in. I don't give a shit. I'm not going to sit there and take offense for other people's position. I mean, God, what a miserable life that I'm going to sit there and have to be offended about every single person's comment and every single person's views. Good Lord, isn't that so energy consuming, right? So I at least appreciate the people that are willing to engage in the discourse and then come to the end and be like, listen, I don't think your beliefs are, I don't think your beliefs are great, but whatever, man. We can agree to disagree, but you're still cool. You know what I mean? We're still cool at the end of the day, but now it's not. Now it's like, okay, firstly, if you don't like what I've got to, if you don't like what someone else has got to say, we need to shun them out of the conversation, right? We need to push them out of the conversation. So, we got to immediately place them in that box and then lock the box, and hopefully that person never comes out and says another word again, all right? I don't know. What does that doesn't say much about your character if you're doing that. Do you know what I mean? There's lots of things I don't agree with people. There's lots of issues that I have no issues with. There's lots of people in my life that we clash on ideas. But man, they are fucking great people, man. They really are incredible people. And I'm like, why should I toss you aside because I don't agree with something on you? You're still a great person. You're still a great person to hang around with. I'll play golf with you. I'll have beers with you and whatever else, and we can have the debate and we can let it all slide. Why am I going to take offense to absolutely everything that everyone says? It's like you try and internalize that. For what? Oh my God. Kind of like that existence over there. It's just such a waste of time. You can channel that differently. Channel that somewhere else that can actually do something useful in your life. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's my little rant.
So it's getting out your own introspection. What could that be? Oh, maybe you object to what you find there. And as you stare into your reflection, what do you see?
I like the instrumentation on this.
Oh, for a soul.
I like this. I like this. Because I like that particular sound because it almost sounds like it's just this noise. It's all this noise in the background. Everyone's got something to say, and to a certain degree, it all just sounds like everyone's just mumbling something at you. So it's a really nice sort of production choice there. like the instrumentation in this because it is somewhat chaotic and then almost represents like confusion, right? Specifically on the actual subject matter, can you afford to be an individual? Because there's so much noise, and it's like, what does it mean to even be an individual anymore? What does it mean to actually truly be yourself today? Because there's a plethora of different ideas, there's a plethora of different notions of who you should be and how you should comport yourself, and what the actual definition of uniqueness is, and what the definition of being this individual that's outside. It's kind of like an outlier outside of the norm at the end of the day. And while you try to sort of assess that and sort of decipher and analyze what that is for you in your own life, it just feels so all-consuming and noisy that do you ever come to an answer, or do you just struggle with this the entire time? Right? And then that on top of all of the struggles in life and trying to keep yourself alive and trying to feed yourself, clothe yourself, put a roof over your head, and all of that, right? And to a certain degree, that is a motoric thing, that is a robotic thing, that is driven by the actual system. That is what you need to do, regardless of what you want to be. I mean, Van Gogh, didn't sell a painting up until, I think it was Van Gogh who didn't sell a painting until he died. I mean, that was his passion, right? And he stuck by his passion and only really became famous after his death, right? And sold a painting after his death. I think it was Van Gogh. I'm not entirely sure if it was Van Gogh, Salvador Dali. No. I think it was Van Gogh. And that was sort of like his individualistic existence, but he was very poor and he suffered and he couldn't feed himself. So we've got a system where you have to, sort of feed yourself and do that kind of thing, which forces you to fall in line to a certain degree, and you have to follow certain norms to a certain degree, or else you won't be able to exist in a decent fashion. But while you're doing that, you're putting the real you, the artistic form of you, your individuality needs to be sidelined so that, you can at least feed yourself to a certain degree. And it's only very few people that are able to sort of escape that and then sort of go on the journey of their individual selves and what they want to do and what they want to be to a certain degree. So it's a very introspective question, because yes, I mean, can you afford to be an individual today? Can you afford to be what you actually want to be, to follow your passions, follow your desires, follow your dreams, right? Can you afford to do that? Most people can't at the end of the day. Does that mean that they're not an individual? That's another question, right? Does that mean by them not being able to do that? I think it's like they are still an individual, but they're not able to express and to demonstrate that individuality to the world is more the case, as opposed to, their individuality is something that's innate. It's within them, right? But are they able to express and show that to the world is another question. It's another thing to look at. I think that's what this really is asking.
Prisoner of your own illusion, upon a pedestal, reveling in your own confusion. I see you have it.
How does it feel to be a prisoner of your own illusion, stepping upon a pedestal of your own confusion? Fire, man. That's such a great line. Another introspective question that he asks you, because to a certain degree, you may look at your life. Some people, everyone actually looks at things very differently, right? And to a certain degree, it can be very elusive. To a certain degree, it's either you're attached to reality and truth, or you're outside of that and you create your own reality and you create your own truth. Is that real detachment, or is that not real detachment? Is the reality that we have, that we call reality, that we were taught that is reality, is that reality? Right, and the deeper you go into this, the more confused you kind of get, because it's like, there's an argument that can go either way at the end of the day. So, is what you know and how you comport yourself and how you operate in society reality in the true sense of reality, right? I think reality is something that's observable to a certain degree. So like not to a certain degree, to actually definitive. Is reality is what you are able to observe with your own eyes and senses and feel with your own eyes and senses. That is the reality. That's the truth of the world you live in, right? But even that got predefined in terms of why you feeling that is because of X, and why you seeing that is because of X, and why. So you can get very philosophical with this kind of question at the end of the day. You can go down many streams of conversation in this. I mean, I really like these type of topics, to be honest.
Upon a pedestal, reveling in your own confusion. I see you have behind your altar or your constitution, but you can't live forever in your own echo chamber, and you're so scared of the.
That's my favorite line in the song. You can't live forever in your own echo chamber. Exactly 100% true, and so prevalent and so relevant to today's society. At the end of the day, we create this echo chamber of ourselves, right? It's this narcissistic echo chamber where we're consistently screaming into it that it's me. Everything needs to revolve around me. I am the center point of everybody's universe, right? And that's very dangerous, because that consistent obsession with yourself actually makes you to be very miserable, right? Because you don't look outward and you don't look at the world in an objective view. Everything is subjective. It's all about you, and it's all about how you feel about something, and it's all about what you can gain from something. And that consistent wanting for validation, adulation, that anything that anybody has said to you can't be said because that affects you, and you are more important than everybody else, and you get to affect language, and you get that kind of thing. That type of thing is actually what destroys people. That's what actually destroys people's individuality, right? If you have an individuality and it differs from somebody else, express it. But then part of expressing it is also accepting that you're going to get people that don't accept it. You're going to get people that are going to push back on it, right? And you need to have the strength to accept that, or else you're not really standing by your individuality, because if it comes to a point where it's so fickle and fragile that you can't operate in a tough society, then what does it matter if you're an individual that's unique or not?
But you can't live forever in your own echo chamber, and you're so scared of the people up in your fairyland. But how can you hate something you don't even understand? Oh, you're a walking contradiction in a mega hat. It's where I wanna be.
What did you say there?
Contradiction in a mega hat.
If you are a walking contradiction in a MAGA hat, I'd go to say that obviously he's like sort of picked a side. He's gone down one political avenue at the end of the day. I don't particularly think it's just MAGA people that are contradictory. I think anybody who would say that is, come on, that's a ridiculous notion to a certain degree, right? Yes, they've got a certain ideal and ideology, but and you get the radical ones always on the fringes. You're going to get the radicals on the left. You're going to get the radicals on the right, right? I tend to rather be more centrist and more sort of a moderate in everything and in most stances at the end of the day. But when you're firing shots at one side, just at one side, I think that's a bit unfair to do, because you can fire those exact same sides, specifically when talking about reality, right, and truth. You can fire shots in both sides, right? They obviously have their own notions of what truth and reality is, right? But in both sides, you can fire those shots. Both sides have got walking contradictions. And I think it's far more important for people to sort of be able to look at the flaws in their own house before pointing fingers at somebody else's house, right? And I speak about that for both sides of the equation, right? There's many things that I completely and utterly disagree and call out of hand with the MAGA crowd that they say. And you get the very radical ones that are obviously they're extreme, right, in their political leanings, but you also get the radical left, which are super extreme in their political leanings, which are also hypocritical, which are also consistently contradictory and stuff like that. So this is a two-way street at the end of the day. So I think isolating it just to one group of people is very unfair. You know what I mean?
You don't even understand. Oh, you're a walking contradiction in a mega hat. It's where I wanna be. Cuppa's the land of the free. So who are you to tell us where we do and don't belong? And who are you to tell us who to love and who to not? Because your mother told you you would win when you were young. Oh, it's a boy's wonderland, we know it now. But now the liberals are liberal, they're just as venomous. And you can have an opinion unless you're one of us.
You see, both those arguments work the same way. It's like, who are you to tell us who are we to love and who we're not to love, and that kind of thing. 100%. I completely and utterly agree with that, right? No one is meant to be telling you that. But it applies to both sides as well. Who are you to tell me what my worldview is? Who are you to tell me what I am, who and what I should affirm or not affirm? Who are you to tell me what my reality is because you perceive your world in a particular way? So it works in both ways at the end of the day. I don't think it's something that you can just throw to the one side and say, oh no, who are you to tell me? Yeah, okay, cool. Who are you as well at the end of the day? There's again, this is the crazy thing, is that in his own in his own song, you know, he's talking about contradictions and, you know, hypocrisy. He's kind of played into that hypocrisy himself to a certain degree. And I agree with the notion that no, I don't think anybody should be able to tell you who you love and what you do. That's you. That's your life. You live how you want to live, right? And no one cares, right? The majority of the moderate, sane people don't give a damn. Right? But then again, you get the extremists on the wings that tell you that you should give a damn. That actually force you into an argument you never wanted to be. It forces you into an ideology you never wanted to partake. And people are sitting there like, listen, we accept, we tolerate, do your thing. But then they're like, no, you can't just accept, you can't just tolerate, you need to participate. Right? And that's where people step back and be like, no, I mean, you can't tell me what I need to participate in if I don't believe in that kind of thing. Do you, man? No one's going to stand in your way. Do you know what I mean? And I think that should apply to both sides. That's 100% true. So I do think that this is a very left-leaning song from an American standpoint. I think it's a very left-leaning song, firing shots at the right. I personally prefer to be more moderate. Right? There's a lot that the liberals. Of the liberals' opinions that I agree with and follow by, and there's a few of the conservative agreements that I agree with and appreciate as well. At the end of the day, I think, you know, you can take from two sides. You can't say, oh, one side's all bad. Can't take anything from the other side. You know what I mean? I mean that's a terrible notion. Like that's when you're deliberately trying to play, you know, a propaganda game, in my personal perspective. Very angry song towards the end there. I like the song. I must be honest, I like the song. I think he had some very introspective things over there. I like the very question, can you afford to be an individual in today's world? And I think that question can be placed on both sides of the aisle. Can you afford to be an individual today? Can you afford to have your own views? Can you afford to be okay without being attacked for having those views? And that swings both ways at the end of the day. I think to a certain degree, this was leaning one way, firing shots at another way, but the song can actually work both ways around. That's what I really like about this song, right? It's not to say that one side is completely right and one side is completely wrong. You know, both sides have their wrongs and rights. Both sides have their goods and bads and their pros and cons and things like that. And I like music like this because it actually does get the conversation going. So I'm not one for ever saying like, oh no, this song is wrong, you know, what are you trying to say over here? No, it's cool, man. I'm fully in line with being able to actually listen to something like this and say, okay, wait a second, what is his true meaning? What is he trying to get to over here? Do I agree? Do I disagree with it? And I think that these songs should exist because it actually opens up conversation. All right, I much prefer that to closing down conversation, which seems to be a lot more of the preferred notion today, right? That words are now dangerous, right? I mean, which is absolutely ludicrous. I think people should be speaking more, right? The only way to get to any level of understanding and agreement is to actually talk more, not to shut down the other side, one side or the other, because it offends you. That for me is what I feel is plaguing the Western world at the moment. But anyway, you guys let me know what you think down below. I actually really like this song, so Aaron, thank you very much for that. If you've got another one like this, throw it my way, man. I'd be happy to sort of give a bit of my analysis on it, and we'll take it from there. I love you all. Please stay safe, please stay healthy. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.